Welcome to Temple Talk, Temple Institute, International Department, Jerusalem, Israel. Today, the 19th day of the month of Menachem Av, 5775. It's August the 4th, 2015. Rabbi Chaim Richman, and with me in the studio, my best friend, who saved my life when we were in the army together in 1989, Yitzchak Reuven. It's a long story. This week, Parshat Eikev, and it's also the Sabbath of the blessing of the new moon, believe it or not, of the month of Elul, which is rapidly approaching us next week, Shabbat and Sunday. Yitzchak Reuven, this is Parshat Eikev, the Torah portion of the, how should I describe it? It begins by talking about the reward for observing the commandments. It begins in verse 12 of chapter 7 of the book of Deuteronomy. And again, it's the continuing this whole amazing experience of the final presentation of Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our master, giving over to his beloved children of Israel before he passes from the world. It began on the beginning of the month of Shvat that year and continued 5 weeks exactly to the 6th day of the month of Adar, and then he passed away the next day. And this is his life legacy that he's giving over. And this week's Torah portion explains in very clear terms the inexorable bond between the performance of God's commandments and the relationship that we have with the land of Israel. It talks about the reward for the commandments. It talks about the challenges that are facing the children of Israel when they come into the land regarding the nations that are there and God's command to drive them out. He says, do not fear them. You shall remember what Hashem your God did to Pharaoh and to all of Egypt. It talks about thrusting these nations out, and the Parsha talks very, very much about remembering what we've been through. Remember what we've been through in the desert. Remembering how we cannot fall into complacency or succumb to the lure of prosperity. Not cut a deal with the locals. And most of all, the covenant that we have of keeping God's commandments in the precious land of Israel, the special quality of the land, how God's hashgacha, his providence, the way he cares for the land of Israel, his relationship with the land of Israel is different than his relationship with any other land on earth. That comes to such a beautiful crescendo of description in chapter 11, where the verse says, it's a land that Hashem your God seeks out. The eyes of Hashem your God are always upon it from the beginning of the year to year's end, which obviously shows us it's a different way of looking at the land of Israel than any other place on earth. And all told, what strikes me very much about this Torah portion is that there's a goal that's being described. There's a vision, and that vision is of a society based on keeping God's word, enjoying that special covenant, realizing the reality of our bond with him in the land of Israel. And it's a very high standard, and it's a very lofty goal that's being laid out here. And you know what? We're living in very, very trying times here in the land of Israel. And I think, Yitzchak, that you would agree with me that all of our problems on societal levels, for example, are all based on not really getting the message of this week's Torah portion and not taking it seriously enough on a national level, and not understanding that all of our issues spring from not appreciating what we're being told here in this Torah portion regarding who we are, what our job is in this world, what our destiny is, bringing the blessing both to this nation and to this land, but to the entire world by upholding our part of the deal, of the covenant, as is outlined in this week's Torah portion, especially when we look at the second portion of Shema, which begins in chapter 11 and verse 13, about how we must hearken to God's commandments in this land.
There's also a tremendous ambivalence today concerning the land of Israel, which is Moshe really introduces it as a new component in the relationship between Israel and God, because now we're going to be living in the land, and the land isn't just another set of mitzvot that apply to the land. The land is sort of the litmus test of our relationship with God and of our relationship with Torah, and to place anything else above the importance and significance of our relationship with the land is to jeopardize the entire enterprise. Now today, many people say, "Oh, you worship stones, you worship rocks, like people are more important and society is more important." You can't separate it. If we don't love the land, appreciate the land, if we don't appreciate every grain of dust in this land, then we're not going to appreciate every soul that occupies this land. It's written black on white in this Torah, in this portion. That's what it's all about. If we try to make agreements and pacts with the locals here, with the people who we're commanded to remove, and it's very clear, makes it very clear in this portion that this is not politically correct. If you're thinking politically correct, lose that, because that is going to ensnare you. And God says, you know what? It's not because you're stronger. It's not because this and that. It's because I promised this land to your forefathers. Well, sue me. I promised it to your forefathers, and I'm going to keep the promise. You have to do your part. And if you fail to do your part, or if you're lacking in doing your part, you will suffer the consequences. And you know what? When things start to unravel and things start to, spin out of control, it's because you are not adhering to these very points which you have just delineated, Rabbi, which are the points made in this week's Torah portion of Eikev. You're not adhering to them. Eikev is a heel, right? That's not the literal meaning. That's not what is meant in its use in this week's parasha.
The implication is things that we take for granted, that we trod underfoot.
But an Eikev is a heel, and the heel is what supports the entire body, what supports the entire enterprise. If we allow our heels to be upended, then we're lost.
So right now we're going through the throes of a difficult time because because we are in the midst of an orgy. Is that a soft G or a hard G?
Soft.
I don't use the word too often. Of self-flagellation and self-judgment over a terrible incident that took place last week, wherein arson was committed in an Arab village and an Arab infant was killed, which is a tremendous tragedy. We don't know who did this. And the suspicion that is very much flamed by the media, and that is the position right now of the government, is that it was Jewish terrorism, what they're calling Jewish terrorism. They don't have any suspects yet. But there's been a lot of incitement, really, on the governmental level and on the media level against whole segments of our society, basically who they're referring to as the settler youth. And the world loves that. The world loves the fact that there seems to be an indication here, an intimation of Jewish terror, what they like to call Jewish terror. And what's happening is that it's giving an excuse for a tremendous amount of demonization that's taking place, where an entire segment, at least one segment and several segments of society, are very conveniently being maligned and stereotyped and classified now and delegitimized, which of course is exactly what led up to the atmosphere that enabled Oslo and that enabled the dismantlement of Gush Katif when an entire segment of society is demonized. But the fact is, no person in his right mind, observant Jew, non-observant Jew, settler, city dweller, we're all settlers by the way, would deny the fact that this is a terrible action that needs to be condemned. That isn't even the issue at all. The issue is that there are elements of society, the left and the left-dominated media, and even elements within the government that are taking advantage of this terrible incident to apparently pave the way for more of their self-immolation fueled by their own self-hatred, their own self-Jew hatred and anti-Torah positions, to be able to make more and more concessions and satisfy more and more of the world's lust for our dismantlement of the entire state of Israel.
First of all, nobody has been accused. Nobody's been accused of this crime. Nobody has been arrested and accused.
But Yitzchak,
it's all speculation.
Okay, but you've got people like Yair Lapid, right, left-wing Knesset member, who makes a statement like, first of all, he says that he's so shocked by Jewish terror. Now, the fact that he could say that he's shocked by Jewish terror is a very wonderful thing.
If it's honest.
But the fact is yes, because if there is such a thing, it's a terrible shock, because this is
a terrible thing.
This is not how Jews act. So wow, that is a shock that Jews would do that. But you know what? Then to go and make a statement that he made, and other members of Knesset make that, oh, that's it. We are at war. We're at war with these Jews. You know what? Where have you been? Why haven't you declared war against the Arab terror? I'm not comparing here,
of course,
Jewish
not,
deaths to Arab deaths.
But this goes back to what the Torah portion reads. You were commanded to enter the land, to take the land, to inherit the land, to not get into bed with the local residents, and that requires solidarity.
I'm sorry that I'm so wound up. I'm feeling so much tension about this. I'm doing stream of consciousness with you here, Yitzchak. You have the president of Israel, right, Reuven. And he's getting a lot of criticism now from people in Israel because he was so quick to speak up against this attack that took place in this Arab village of Duma. But as the mother of Adva Biton, who was a little girl that passed away recently after being for a couple of years in a near vegetative state, and then she finally started to improve, she says he never spoke out against the attack against my daughter.
No.
And I think when asked about it, he said that he didn't want to antagonize the Arabs or some ridiculous statement like that. So you've got this pattern. You've got Arab sheikhs together meeting with Jewish rabbis, having prayer meetings, for the survivors and for the baby that was killed. When do they ever do that? When do they ever have that kind of expression of solidarity when Jews are killed? They never do, and the reason is because it's expected that Jews should be killed. Jews are meant to be killed.
Jews expect it.
Jews expect us to be killed, and we're expendable. And it's outrageous, this whole thing, the amount of violent attacks that took place just this past weekend, Shabbat and Sunday. I cannot possibly even count them. It is incredible. The amount of firebombs that were thrown at Jewish homes, the amount of stones that were thrown at vehicles, the amount of riots.
And everybody will say that it's justified because an Arab was killed. But how many... Why wasn't that justified? I mean, where do you begin to draw the line?
They're like freedom fighters. They're like protesting
like
occupation.
Fighters.
There's Jewish terror. But the newspapers of the world would never call what the Arabs are doing terror. And in fact, Obama made a rule that you cannot even use the expression Muslim terror because there isn't any such thing. But of course, there could be Jewish terror. But, we just spoke a couple of, was it less than 2 months ago on this very broadcast, I spoke about a horrible incident that took place in my own family where my son-in-law was driving and escaped death by seconds by jumping out the window of the vehicle that was firebombed and was completely destroyed, engulfed in flames. We posted
by a
the videos.
Decision was he not with his infant in the car?
In the back seat. We never would have been able to extricate. We posted the video even on Facebook. Who talks about these things? And again, just going back over Shabbat and Sunday, the Molotov cocktails, rocket fire, rioting in neighborhoods in Jerusalem, setting fire to a synagogue, setting fire to homes near the roadways. I'm just reading this incredible list. Policemen that were hurt, and then of course last night. There was a Molotov cocktail attack, and a woman who actually is a neighbor who lives not far from my daughter in her community in Samaria, but this actually took place in the outskirts of Jerusalem. Molotov cocktail. She has 15% burns all over her body. This is last night. Nobody even talks about it. This is going on all the time, these examples of terror. But there are these elements in the left that are just waiting to be able to condemn Jews They hate themselves so much, right? And again, I look at it through the eyes of this week's Torah portion. We are aiming for a perfect and just society based on our relationship with Hashem, based on our covenant of keeping these commandments in this land. And that is the measure to which we hold ourselves up to. And obviously, it's the measure that the whole world holds ourselves up to. And it's a very beautiful and lofty goal that is. But you know what? It's none of anybody's business, I don't think. And I don't see how anybody can talk about it but us who live here, who are willing to undergo all of this, who realize it's on our very flesh and blood that we need to transform into the society that God expects us to be. And we have every right to be that critical and self-judgmental, because we are serious about becoming those people. But the amount of hypocrisy that takes place both in the klipa, in the negative level of society here that's dominated by these self-hating elements, the left, and these elements in the government and the media, which is totally run by this element. What we go through, nobody goes through, and we are hard on ourselves, and that's exactly what this Torah portion is all about. And then you have this tremendous hypocrisy, this tremendous double standard, which is it's hard enough, it's painful enough when it's exercised against us by the rest of the world, right? By America, whose standards of morality are non-existent. By America, whose heroes are Hollywood actors, because all America is about is fluff and entertainment. It's all emptiness. The people that they look up to are people who portray themselves as being something else, because that's the only way that Americans can deal with reality, because they have no reality, because they have no morality, because Planned Parenthood is selling baby parts, right? So they have no idea whatsoever of any level of measure of humanity, of morality, of anything. So therefore, they can go and they can make this deal with Iran, and then they can try to convince the American people that it's okay, even though it's not an accident, it's not a stupid, bad deal. It's on purpose that Obama wants very much for Iran to use its nukes on Israel. It's and it comes out now, all these, what do they call it, side deals? All these secret deals that Iran made with the International Atomic Energy Agency, that Kerry himself said that he doesn't even have any idea what's in those agreements. Only the Ayatollah knows. It's so off limits, the secret deal, that the United States Congress isn't going to be provided access by the Obama administration for their 60-day review. And so America's going to pour $100 billion into Iran, which is then going to make it the number one provider of terrorism in the entire world. There's no contradiction here. You know, that's America for you. But you know what? What we're doing here is something else altogether. We have a goal of being the people of God. And therefore, when something untoward like this happens, and I have a prayer and a wish that it should be proven that it wasn't Jews who did it, and I want to then hold my breath and see if anybody apologizes for all the incredible maligning that took place. And you know what? If it was, and I'm afraid it was, it's horrible, and we condemn it. It's very, very regrettable. But let's have a little bit of understanding here that so far, in living memory, one Arab youth was killed by Jews. And I'm referring to the boy that was killed last summer. His name is Muhammad Abu Qadir. And now possibly another Arab child, Alisa Dawabsha, was possibly killed by Jews also. Maybe he was, and that's a terrible thing, horrible. But you know what? There are 177. Now don't get me wrong here. I'm not comparing blood for blood. But I'm asking the world, and I'm also asking Israeli society, where are you protesting? Why aren't you having, prayer meetings and meetings of consolation with the sheikhs, and of course the Temple Mount sheikh that's paid by the Palestinian Authority is giving sermons on the Temple Mount about how the Jews created all the diseases in the world. And am I going on and on and on, stream of consciousness? So here there's a list that I can't even read because I'm going to choke up. If I read this list of the 177 Israeli children, and by Israeli I mean Jews and Arabs, who were killed by Arab terrorists. I can't even read the list because there are so many that are even known to me personally, families, that I don't think I'll be able to get through this list, right? And of course, it doesn't even include the times that Jewish children were targeted, but only adults were killed, like when school buses were hit by roadside bombs. And of course, the last name on this list is none other than Chaya Zisel Brown, who was an infant of 3 months, whose parents waited to be able to conceive her for 10 years. But on that, the European Union doesn't say an expression like, there has to be zero tolerance, which they say about Jewish terrorism, and Ban Ki-moon and all these people. There's something so wrong with the picture. But I say, I understand it. It's right on schedule, because I look at the parsha and I see, yes, this is who we are. We are a people that's supposed to be living here in the land of God according to these commandments. And that's what we're going to reflect and shine forth to the world. And that's our problem. That's our inner problem that we're working on. And like you said, every aspect of every eclipse of our society and every flaw is because we do not understand what we're being told in this parsha, and every side deal that we've made, and every kind of running away from our responsibility as being this people of God. That's the situation that we're in now. But we know very, very well what our responsibility is. Sorry about that, Yitzchak.
Yeah.
I'm all worked up because I feel that this is our responsibility, because I feel that we're responsible for the entire nation, because we all take responsibility, because we all are responsible for each other. And this is what it's all about. This isn't about proportionality. Murder is murder. It's unacceptable. It's horrible. But I think people have to understand what it is that we are facing here every single day. And I don't even mean to imply or intimate in the least bit as an excuse, God forbid, for murder. I'm saying, you know what? We didn't invent it. We didn't invent it, and they're trying constantly to kill our children. They are killing our children. You don't hear about it unless maybe it actually works and the bomb went off, and then it's on page 16 and buried. It's not intolerable. It's not terror. You understand? And this is something that, unfortunately, is acceptable to the world.
And has become all too acceptable to our own society, where we just take it. That's just the way it is. That's the price we pay. The price we pay, unfortunately, simply for treading water here, is if we're not moving forward, we're moving backward.
But it's all about the challenge of this week's Torah portion, about coming into this land, accepting the responsibility of God's commandments, bringing the light and blessing to the whole world. And I think that it's working slowly. It is definitely happening. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Temple Talk.
Shalom and welcome back to Temple Talk. This is Yitzchak Reuven. With me in the studio, Rabbi Chaim Richman of the Temple Institute. Today is the 19th day of the month of Av, 5775. It's the 4th day of August, 2015. Next Sunday is Rosh Chodesh, Rabbi, Rosh Chodesh Elul.
Shabbat and Sunday.
Shabbat and Sunday, Rosh Chodesh Elul, which is the ultimate, the last month of the year, when we count Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, as the first of the year, and the month of getting ready for the return, as it were. But we'll talk about that next week. Right now, we've been talking about the Parsha and its relevance to everything that is going on today in the land of Israel, in the hearts of the people of Israel, and in our relationship with God here in Israel. It's all can be found in Parshat Eikev. Rabbi,
I'm losing control here.
You had your chance, and you did your harangue, and now
my harangue, when the New York Times, right, when the story broke about the arson, for hours it's running the story as breaking news, right? And the European Union, the United Nations, they're all condemning what they call settler violence.
Right.
And they don't have proof yet that there is
You know what?
such
I'm a
thing.
settler.
And me too. We both live over the green line.
We both live over the green line.
They are targeting 1/10 of the Israeli population that lives over the green line. And again, when Jewish babies are slaughtered in Hebron, in Gush Katif, in any place in
or
Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv,
or on the other side of the Green Line, which nobody has a problem with. Allegedly,
there's
it
never
doesn't matter.
any sort of moral urgency. There's never even any compassion.
Who cares?
Exactly.
Listen. 300,000 Arabs have been murdered in Syria in the past 5 years, and nobody cares.
And not only that, Yitzchak, but what else is going on here? Honor killings, burning people all the time. It's a Muslim thing to do. There are these things that are going on all along. I'm not, again, in any way intimating a justification or a
Not only do they don't
rationalization.
care, but the United States and the Western powers have just empowered the world's greatest purveyor of anti-Semitic genocidal hate, and that's Iran, of course. And nobody has a problem with that. Nobody has a problem with the fact that day and night their supreme leader is calling for the death and destruction
And the
of Israel
Ayatollah
and all the Jews.
just wrote a book in which he described that he's going to annihilate America as well. They basically hoodwinked America as big time as you can get. That's
They
their
didn't hoodwink.
attitude
America
about
wants
it.
to be hoodwinked.
That's their attitude about
Right.
it.
In any case, the fact is, Rabbi, a week ago there was another heinous crime committed in Israel when a Jewish man attacked with a knife people at a gay pride rally in Jerusalem. And a young girl, 16-year-old girl, was murdered. Now, forgive me, Rabbi, but this bothers me so much more. It is so much more painful for me. It is so much more reason for introspection and soul searching than the murder of this Arab infant. This is also a heinous crime, because here is a crime of a Jew murdering a Jew. It's horrible. It's the ultimate end result of all the internecine hatred that we're
First of all,
experiencing right now.
the perpetrator is clearly out of his mind. And
Right.
you can call
For
it a
sure.
result of that.
Absolutely. He was
Absolutely
he was
deranged.
He's deranged. Now the fact
But the
that
world media is using both murders
but let
to
me-
try and
but
paint
what I
a
wanna
picture.
say-
Oh, this is Israeli society.
What I
And
wanna
unfortunately,
say-
Israel itself, the left, is cynically using both murders to paint whole segments of society,
Yeah, of
whether it's the
course.
settlers, the religious, the right, as basically being evil incarnate. But my whole point is, plugged into this partial, we are constantly refining ourselves. I'd like to see another people in the world that are working as diligently as the people in this land are working to become that just society. It's certainly not America.
What I want to say, Rabbi, is that
America, where tens of murders are committed every day. Is anybody
that-
responsible? Does anyone feel, oh, let me apologize on behalf of all Americans? No, it's not expected from that vacuous society.
is that we're at war with the local Arab population here in Israel, which doesn't accept us, wants to wipe us out. The claim that the Western world has adopted is that all I want is a state of their own. But they themselves are quite open in their desire to destroy us completely and wipe us out. We're at war with that Arab nation. Yet we're not conducting a war with them. So there's chaos and there's anarchy, and instead we're destroying Jewish houses because there's a parcel of land that's situated inside hundreds of Jewish housing inside a Jewish community, and that parcel of land someone claimed from some piece of paper, or not even a piece of paper, for some who knows what from 150 years ago, that it belongs to some Arab somewhere. And rather than pay the Arab compensation if it belongs to him, because he's never going to get that piece of land back. No, it's the decision of the Supreme Court to destroy that building, to throw the Jews out who are living in it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a war going on here with all the wrong people. With all the wrong people.
And there's no response from the security forces to all the attacks that are being perpetrated against Jews.
So yes, so when
constantly.
one Jew maybe decided to do something crazy, something insane, something unacceptable, well, gee, I wonder why that happened. You know, if you turn the heat up enough on people's feet, somebody's going to jump. Somebody's
sick
going
to
to jump. But
death.
again, we don't know who did this. And for God's sake, we have security forces in this country, which are world renowned. Find the person who did it. Don't allow an entire community to be brutalized in the media, for day after day after day. Find who did it, and pursue justice.
And there's no justice. There's no sympathy for Jews that are killed. The left, all they do is talk peace and tolerance, and the only ones that they want to extend that to are to people who think exactly like them.
When a
and
Jew
the
is
rest are going to be silent.
When a Jew is murdered here in the land of Israel, and his body is sliced into pieces or shot in the face, and they know it was by an Arab, still the police will not say whether it was terror or just a crime, sometimes for weeks. Sometimes they'll never admit it, because they're so cautious so as not to create some kind of dynamic where things might spin out of control, I guess.
And there are never left-wing rallies that are calling for Arab peace and tolerance when Arabs are attacking and murdering Jews constantly. And I'm telling you, here is the list of 177 Israeli children, Jews and Arabs, that were murdered by Arab terrorists. And there is no response whatsoever.
All I'm saying is stick to the program. Stick to the program that is enumerated here in Parshat Eikev. Stick to the program that, yes, this land belongs to us. God gave it to us. God is expecting us to inherit the land, to take the land, and to create a just society in the land based on God's Torah. That is what is expected of us.
By the way, I didn't even mention the brush fires that are going on all around Jerusalem, and other forms of arson and terror that are constantly employed by the Arabs to try and destabilize and undermine Jewish sovereignty, Jewish presence, and in general the structure of the state of Israel that's constantly going on.
You want a microcosm? Go to the Temple Mount. Go to the Temple Mount, where there are sheikhs who freely poison the atmosphere with their hate speech against Jews. Based on all the time, what is the expression?
Honored.
Time-honored, canards. When today a French tourist apparently, some say he actually opened up an Israeli flag. Some say he just had some kind of
something with the
souvenir
flag
that he
on it.
bought here that had a flag on it. As soon as an Arab mob saw it, they attacked him. The police barely got him off the Temple Mount alive. This is the seething beast that we're up against. So please, my Jewish brothers and sisters, stop fighting with one another. Okay? If someone did something wrong, find that person, punish that person, put him in jail. And you know what? Keep him in jail, because the Jew who attacked someone at the gay parade last week was a Jew who had just gotten out of jail after 10 years for doing it 10 years ago. How come the police allowed him to enter that same arena, the same scene of his first crime? If we're going to start pointing fingers here, where are the authorities who are supposed to, be keeping order in society, to be preventing crime and terror, to be protecting our rights? Where are they? Where's the leadership? Where's the vision? Isn't there a pasuk, Rabbi? Isn't there a verse somewhere? When there is no vision, something. There's a line. I'm hearing it. When there is no vision, something, something, something.
Are you sure it's not from a Dylan song?
No. It's from somewhere in the Tanakh. Anybody out there?
So Yitzchak,
but when there's no vision, when we're not moving forward, when we're not building, when we're not inheriting, when we're not taking steps toward the society that we need to be, when our leadership isn't, then everything drags and things start to break apart. The rank and file, the people, the hundreds of thousands of Jews who live in Judea and Samaria, wonderful, dear, caring, moral, decent people, they're trying their best. And many other Jews in this country are trying their best from all different spectrums, all different parts of the political, social spectrum. There are many Jews doing their very best to make a good society here. But when the leadership, the elected leadership, is more concerned with playing games of political games with one another, they're the ones responsible. They're the ones responsible when some, if they say it was a kid who did this, when some kid went out of control, a kid, for crying out loud, a kid did something really stupid. despicable.
What does that have to do with Israeli society? But in the meantime, last night again, this couple, Uri and Inbar, they were traveling just outside of Jerusalem when they were hit by a Molotov cocktail. Inbar, 27 years old, she was set on fire. The car was filled with fire, and she's got 15% burns all over her body. You don't hear a word about it in the media. And if there would be anything about it anywhere, it would be treated as if it's just justified because of some situation that's spiraling. But this is what we have every single day.
Anyway.
But Yitzchak, it is the most just society in the world. I feel very, crestfallen about the horrible hypocrisy of the world and the horrible hypocrisy of the Israeli left, that are both fueled by the same obscene desire to see this disappear. What we have here, this attempt to bring Hashem's name into the world, it's a society that's based on justice. It's based on what's right. It's based on really reaching out to humanity. The same society that is the leader in disaster relief, whether it's Haiti or Nepal or anything, the same society that is the leader in every medical breakthrough, the same society that is taken upon itself the goal of easing the plight of all of humanity's suffering, is the same society that is working through all of its struggles as it matures as a nation, and as it deals with its spiritual legacy of what it needs to do in this world, which is a very daunting task. And the total hypocrisy and moral bankruptcy of its critics is so absolutely lewd. And it's emanating from the holiest place in the world. It's emanating from the Temple Mount. We're, like you said, in this week's Torah portion, we were warned very clearly about not making a deal, about not turning our back on the covenant. And that's exactly what's happened here, where you have the terrible cancer of I won't say Muslim extremism, of Islam, emanating from the Temple Mount and becoming more and more brazen, becoming more and more out of control. And this is what we have now. This is the situation that's been created, and now we have to deal with it. And I think that we will deal with it, and I think that we are. And again, the youth of our generation, holy, pristine, marching forward, not afraid. This is the hope. This is the hope that we're to paint all of our youth as being evil or criminally motivated or something is so ridiculous. We are trying to survive here as a people. What we are up against, no one in the world is up against. And we are doing this alone, completely alone. And I think the result speaks for itself. I think the result is inimitable. I think it's a thing of beauty and splendor, what we have here. And it should be the envy of the whole world. And you know what? All of the difficulties along the road, all of the bumps that we have to deal with, we'll deal with them. Leave them to us. And you know what? Again, America, the beautiful, the free, the great, forget about it. Forget about it. Go sell your baby parts to the highest offer, highest bid. Go cut deals with the greatest empowerer of evil and treachery and murder in this world, Iran. You're gone. You're finished. You're done. There's nothing left there at all. There's nothing left. Just say goodbye. How long do you think such a thing could be allowed to continue as what America has become? So treacherous, so filled with deceit emanating from the highest office of the land. And what about the good people in America that are against these things, that know left from right, that know that terror and evil is being empowered all around them? I don't know. I guess you're going to have to stand up for what's right and make a decision whose side you're on.
Well, Rabbi, any good jokes?
So
These two guys enter a bar.
yeah.
That beautiful pasuk verse that you quoted before about God's eyes being on the land from the beginning of the year.
One
to
of my
the end.
favorites.
Yeah,
One of
just,
my favorites.
Say something about it, Rabbi. Just like a lullaby. Just say something. I
You
need to
know
hear
I
something
lullaby
good.
about this, but people are going to be sick of it because I say it every year because I just
Oh,
love
come
it so
on.
much.
Yes, say it. I want to hear it.
You want to hear it?
Yeah, sing some of your old stuff, Rabbi.
My old stuff. Reb Shlomo used to say, Reb Shlomo used to walk into a room. He used to say, "How do you understand this verse? What do you mean? What do you mean? The eyes of the Lord are upon it from the beginning of the year to year's end. What, isn't he looking at anywhere else? Isn't he looking at Poughkeepsie or Manchester? What do you mean? He's looking at the whole world." And then so the question is, ask everybody in the room, does anybody here love Coca-Cola? And all the people raise their hands. And then he says, tell me something. Do you love your children? And you have to admit, you don't look at your child the same way that you look at a bottle of Coca-Cola, I hope. And that's exactly what this verse is saying. The way that God looks at the land of Israel is different than the way he looks at the rest of the world. And you know what? Come here and you'll see that it's true, and you know that it's true. And you know what? And that's exactly why we are going through what we are going through, because we have a different standard. And we'll get it right. Don't you worry. But not with the European Union's help, not with the UN's help, and not with President Obama's help.
Thank you
Just
very much.
go. Thank you anyway. We're not buying. We don't need it. We'll do it. We'll do it with the help of the God of Israel, the Rock of Israel. That's all we need. Nothing else.
Okay. So, what else can we talk about, Rabbi?
I think we need to talk about our plans for the building of the third temple.
Let's do that.
I think we need to talk about our life's work. We need to talk about the video that's been released that, as of this recording, has garnered about 190,000 views in about a week. The brief glimpse at some of the architectural renderings that we're working on now, as far as the actual sanctuary of the Holy Temple, one of the major projects of the Temple Institute, the preparation of architectural blueprints for the actual construction of the temple. We can talk about one of the major undertakings that we have ever embarked upon, which is the attempt to raise from birth a perfect, kosher, authentic red heifer, which will be the first real kosher, authentic red heifer in 2,000 years. And we are going about that through a very wonderful and innovative process. You can read all about it on the Temple Institute's website and Facebook page. We have a campaign now to help to fund this very ambitious and really earth-shattering project to prepare a proper red heifer as behooves us, as is expected of us, to fulfill the commandments, to get ready and do as much as possible, as much as is up to us, to prepare the way for the third temple. And the process of the red heifer is a prerequisite for all of that. So we are very, very busy on every level, doing everything that we can possibly do to refocus, re-educate, recenter the people of Israel on their connection to our Father in heaven, to the Holy Temple, to the fulfillment of our destiny as a people in this land, which is to bring the Shekhinah, the light of God, the divine presence, to Jerusalem, to the place of the Holy Temple, for the uplifting and the unification of the entire human race. I say that shamelessly and unabashedly. I say nothing different than Isaiah the prophet, Zechariah the prophet, all the prophets of Israel tell us. That is what it's all about. That is what we're doing here. Not to do anything else. Not to make movies. Not to lead the world in any other field. Just to teach the world that there's one God. That's what the Jewish people are doing here. And by God, that's what we'll do.
And I'd just like to refer once again, Rabbi, to raising a red heifer, perfect red heifer, first time in 2,000 years. It's a prerequisite for the building of the Holy Temple. It's the honor of God, which is at stake here. And you know what? Look at the world spinning out of control. Look at what's going down. Look at the deal with Iran. Look at what the injection of hundreds of billions of dollars into the Iranian economy is going to do to the world stability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a timeline going on here. There's an arc. There's a trajectory. And you know, set your own agenda here. You know, you're either going to go along with what Obama and company and the supreme leader of Iran have in mind, what they have in mind for the world, or else you can think a little bit differently, think out of the box, think the way we've been taught to understand things and pursue things according to Torah. So check it out again one more time, our Raise a Red Heifer campaign. You can find out all about it on our website, Facebook page, Indiegogo campaign. Thank you very much for being with us. Temple Talk.